Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to another edition of the Liberty Report. I'm Professor Red Pill from Straight Talk Podcast, Cyber Cafe Edition, and tonight I'm joined with Adam Mad Maxwell from the Liberty Rising Group. So on this show today, we're not going to chase headlines or anything. We're just going to dissect power dynamics of what's going on currently in the geopolitical sphere or realm of the global agenda. From rising tensions with Iran to political machinery operating behind closed doors in Washington. So we're going to break down the incentives, the influence, and the interests that shape foreign policy decisions involving this particular type of situation that we're in, the new thing, if you will. So this isn't a left versus right; it's liberty versus centralized power. So the questions we're going to answer today are who benefits with the tensions that are escalating at the moment, who shapes the narrative, and what does it mean for everyday Americans and the greater global community as a whole. So Adam brings strategic insight from Liberty Rising Group, and together we're going beyond surface level debate or examination of the systems that are driving global events currently. For deeper dives and extended coverage, join my locals community, Professor Red Pill's Tea Club, where I unpack geopolitics and power without the filters. Use promo code Rumble3 for $3 off your first month's membership, and of course, join Adam Mad Maxwell's locals channels as well. Those links are in the description. If you're in Rumble, you can click join button, and that'll take you right to the locals channel. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. And go ahead, Adam.
Thank you very much for that introduction. So today is the 25th of February, 2026, and you're absolutely correct. This is not partisan, it's not left-right, it's not even temporal in the sense that it's current year. This is systemic, perhaps even systematic, I would say. It's not just a result, it's by design of the system. It's a serious evaluation of reality. I mean, most people think that reality is something that they encounter. It isn't. It's something that you experience. It is also something that is engineered, not necessarily through overt propaganda and direct machinations. Certainly not a sense of a single villain dictating a script. But reality in modern societies is manufactured. Reality that you experience is manufactured through design. By the time it reaches you, it no longer looks engineered, it looks obvious. That's the genius of consensus engineering. Now, no single individual needs to lie outright. No any person needs to coordinate like in a smoke-filled room. This system doesn't require villains in that kind of comic book sense. It requires alignment. It requires people and perhaps this ruling class whose income, status, credibility, and identity are all tethered to the preservation of institutional authority. Academics publish within acceptable paradigms. Journalists quote credentialed experts. Bureaucrats enforce regulatory interpretations. Corporations signal compliance. Algorithms, they prioritize approved narratives. And look, it's not freedom of speech, but it's freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. They will then deprioritize or sometimes just outright censor narratives or opinions, perspectives that they don't agree with. The important thing is each actor here operates rationally within their incentive structure. Each believes they're being responsible, and the outcome is convergence. And this we touched on this last episode with the Soviet collapse. You don't require one actor to coordinate with another actor all towards one goal. You just need the system to be engineered in such a way that the incentives align for the convergence of certain goals. And so you don't need to use overt force to dismantle dissent. You can just kind of structurally deprioritize it. And over time, this produces something that's far more powerful than the censorship. It produces inevitability. There's kind of a sense that this is just how things are. The alternatives are fringe, unserious, morally suspect, or, this is a favorite one, contradicts the science. What science? Don't worry about it. Or um, studies which perhaps have unreliable data or methodology, and then you commission multiple of these studies, and then you do meta-analyses on these studies, not looking at the underlying data, and you end up with conclusions that are so obviously flawed. I'll give you one example. There have been studies that said red meat are very bad for you. And then meta-analyses say, oh, the red meat's bad for you. And then you look at the original studies, and they take lasagna, cheesy, oily, greasy lasagna, and this is red meat in the final. And then all the newspapers or the journalists, who of course aren't journalists but operatives of the system, as every other of these professions. And so now all of a sudden, there is this reality that is manufactured that red meat's bad for you, for example, or that masks protect against viruses with a load that's small, that's nanometers in size, which definitely goes through all the meshes on the masks. So this is how census becomes self-validating, because the institutions that generate it also certify as manufacturing reality. One thing that makes the system impressive, almost resilient, certainly, is that the people who enforce it don't see themselves as enforcers. They see themselves as professionals, as stabilizers, as defenders of order. They believe sincerely that they're acting in the public interest. And it's the same thing for those who are subject to it. They don't see what's going on. So that's what we're going to be breaking down today. How consensus is engineered, who maintains it, how incentives shape it, and why it feels organic when it isn't. Under the premise that once you see the architecture, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand the incentives, the illusion of neutrality begins to dissolve.
Yeah, I mean the situation now is, I mean, why are we in this situation in the first place? Like with a possible Iran strike or potential war. I know, in our promo, in the promo we posted with, we used, what was it, the War Pigs, that was Black Sabbath, and the quotes in that in particular are kind of relevant to like what's going on geopolitically. And the thing is we see the Epstein files were recently released, I guess within the last month or two, and that's been a lot of buzz with social media, with influencers all over X, all over, different social media platforms. It's the buzz everybody's talking about. It's the new thing. Well, as we've seen in the past with previous administrations, predominantly like Clinton administration, Bush administration, whenever there's scandals, and this goes back to the movie Wag the Dog with Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, where they had a scandal in the in the White House, with I guess a affair, like of sexual nature, and they went. Robert De Niro was working as, I guess he was a spook. He was like working for an alphabet agency, and he went to Hollywood to manufacture a war, because it was an election year, and this scandal would be devastating to the political campaign. So he manufactured a war through the use of a producer, i.e., Dustin Hoffman, and this was, I guess, was Albania, where's the fictitious war was. Well, eventually, someone from the alphabet agency, from the CIA, came and met with him, and he was like, "There is no war. We don't have any any data that says that there's any conflict. You need to end this now." And Robert De Niro was like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyway." And they just cleaned it up and wrapped it up. But the reality is that was a fictitious war. This current conflict is a possible potential real war. with real casualties, real servicemen that have recently been deployed to the Middle East, to the theater. And I don't know, there's news stories buzzing around uh, Telegram and other types of social media platforms that the servicemen and women recently got a steak, lobster, and crab leg dinner. Um, Generally, when they there's an actual meme or saying in the military that whenever they're feeding you a steak dinner or lobster dinner or crab legs, it generally means that you're getting ready for war, that there's going to be massive deployment. And that occurred, I believe, over the last weekend into this week. And it really does not take time, because most of the if it, as we know and we cover, most of the military is currently in the theater already. They're surrounding Iran. They've been there since Desert Storm, since all previous wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, you name it. And because of the recent conflict that brewed up between Israel and Hamas, and as well as Iran, where they struck, actually Trump pushed the order to actually strike nuclear reactors within the Iranian territory or nation state. Now we know they've basically been moving um, military equipment and military personnel away from bases that are surrounding the Gulf, and moving them further inland into Arabia, which I said that they would eventually do. And when they start doing that, that's a good indication that we're going to war. Like it'll be imminent. Because, like I said, the Iranian missiles are well within range of those bases, and they are vulnerable. And I'm not sure on the anti-missile defense systems that they have established in Qatar and Kuwait. I think it's Kuwait. No, not Kuwait, but um, not Camp Doha in Kuwait. But I think they might be moving some from there as well. But that's a very massive base there. Its base has been there since the first Desert Storm, or first Gulf War under Bush Senior. But they have a base, naval base that they built or that actually the Qatarians built in Qatar. I've actually seen it in Bahrain as well. I haven't been on that base, but I've seen where it is, and I've been in the area when I was in Saudi Arabia teaching military personnel. But yeah, there's most of the bases in Saudi Arabia, the U.S. Or allied bases and U.S. bases. They're further inland in Saudi Arabia, in the middle of the peninsula, and they're far enough away. And the anti ballistic missile systems that they have in place are mostly on the Gulf Coast. When I worked in the country, I was you could see them in the desert and whatnot when you're traveling to and from Bahrain and different provinces, the Eastern Province in Saudi Arabia. But they're all over. They're it's well fortified. So I wouldn't say that necessarily the bases are well protected. They're not going to be protected against an anti-ballistic, ballistic missile, obviously, but Scud missiles and different types of surface-to-air missiles. Yeah, they have a high likelihood of averting those or taking those out. But I digress. I mean, the reality is that they are preparing. I think is there 2 or 3 carrier groups in the theater right now?
At least.
Yeah, I think it's 3 that are in the theater at this point. And one is most likely on its way to Diego Garcia, which is in the South Indian Ocean. It's a joint U.S. British air base off of. It's been there a while. That's generally, if they're going to do any type of like strategic bombing range, it's going to come from that base. It's in the Indian Ocean, South Indian Ocean. And they most likely moved a lot of bombers there as well. I don't, that's top secret stuff, so I wouldn't know that at all. Just, I'm an academic, so, but most likely they'd probably, if they moved strategic bombers there, then there's most likely that's where that's where the initial strikes would be coming from, other than, in the Gulf, or surrounding seas, where they have carrier groups stationed. But I don't know. I mean, it's very possible that they will strike. And Gerald Slinte, I guess recently, either today or yesterday, had said that the likelihood of a U.S. strike is imminent, and it'll probably happen over the weekend. Which today is the 25th of February, like you had mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. So I would assume the 28th. They'd probably strike 28th or 27th. Yeah.
Very quickly on that, I think on Calci or Tolly Market, there was something like $3 million of volume estimated. Is the war going to start today or tomorrow or the next day? And it was like 40 million the 28th. So that's kind of odd. And that was like a 50-50. No, it was a high proportion as well, maybe 30% likelihood there on the odds, or the probability. So it's curious. I would say that the Indian Prime Minister has visited Israel today. This was announced a few days ago. Oh, he's going to. So you don't really start a war after you've invited the head of that country to come over. So it's not going to happen today, but it does appear imminent, again, based on just the amount of assets that they've moved into the area.
Yeah, I don't know. The reality is that like it most likely is imminent. It's going to happen. I mean, and the other thing too is to consider when we look at historical data, predominantly with the Ukrainian Russian conflict, that we haven't covered in a while because it's kind of been stagnated, and we're we keep saying like there's got to be a peace treaty coming soon. Peace treaty's got to they've got to have concessions. Something's got to be worked out soon. Which we that's the only thing that we've talked about that we've got wrong. Just admitting it now, it's fine. We were thinking by summer this year that it would have been the war would have been over, completely over, and there would have been a peace deal, but that didn't happen. Also, I called a conflict in where was it, Taiwan, that it was like, yeah, it may happen. It's a highlight. It didn't happen, and that was where I got wrong. But this one in particular, like I said, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm not saying that the likelihood of an actual strike is going to happen over the weekend. But a lot of influencers and a lot of insiders and experts are saying it's very imminent. And in academia, the people that I'm connected to, they're also talking about it as well. And they're like, yeah, it's very likely. So we'll see. But for the most part, what do you think the repercussions would be if there was a strike over the weekend, market wise or just geopolitically?
War is bad. And though it is profitable for some, it's more kind of a wealth or a like priority relocation. So it's bad for business. It's bad for business. Especially once a war breaks out, it can take on a life of its own. Who knows what's going to happen? Is Iran going to strike Saudi oil fields? Are they going to block the Strait of Hormuz, as I think they maybe tested out the other day? What's going to happen to oil production or even oil logistic? Who's going in there to go get oil out of Iran if America is saturation bombing the place with Israel? So that's going to have a massive impact on energy prices, for example. Good thing that we're coming out of the winter season. My energy bills have skyrocketed regardless, thanks to Euro adoption. So I think we're going to see, if a war does break out, almost certainly an increase in energy prices. And energy price underpins economic competitiveness and global trade. So you're going to see things become immediately more expensive overnight. Global trade slow down, that region slow to a crawl. Who's going through the Suez Canal if Israel's getting bombed by Iran, and you're going through the Red Sea, and who knows what Yemen's going to do? And so now people are going around Africa and not going through Suez. It's too risky. The oil's not coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. That entire region economically shuts down because just the risk. Who's flying to Qatar or UAE or in and out if things are shut down? So immediately there's a massive shock there. Then with the discompetitiveness there, and the one can say, well, my bill that month was actually, pardon me, my bill that month was actually fine. It may take some short time lag to catch up on the impact, but it's coming. I think that you'll see an immediate drop in all stocks, all equities, with the exception of military stock. Good time to buy. Same as last year and the year before and the year before. Military technology stocks, Palantir, Reichmetal, these many of these stocks, very, very good to buy. I also think based and I'm not certain on this because I've not studied enough of the technical analysis, but it seems reasonable that with the drop in liquidity from equities and the kind of a rush towards stability, I would imagine that store of values, gold, precious metals, Bitcoin specifically, I think these will all experience an appreciation in price. Now, Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's been on the kind of decrease in Bitcoin dominance lately. Other coins have done better. Gold's done fantastic. What happens is how the crypto markets work, the kind of it's the microeconomic of the crypto market, but it's the macro within the crypto. When there's a crisis, money flows to Bitcoin, store the value, and everything falls elsewhere. And that's how this market corrects and cycles. So I think Bitcoin will do well. I think the other coins will not, probably. And I'm not so familiar with markets right now as I have as I'm not in them, as I don't have any capital to exploit. So that's what I think will happen economically. Everywhere is going to suffer a serious shock. Who knows how long that will last? It's important if Iranian energy production is blown up, it seems probable they will then blow up Saudi. These things, it's not just a drill in a bit of sand where oil is just flowing. My understand, especially the refineries, my understanding, this is billions and billions and billions of dollars, and it's not something you can just build in an afternoon or a month or a year. My understanding is this could last a long time. You go back to the 1970s, there was the OPEC, the cartel, the crisis where they said, we're not selling you oil, or we're not selling you much oil, we're going to restrict the supply of oil. And what we saw is stagflation, which we've been seeing now anyway, which is stagflation is when you have both rising prices, inflation, and a contraction in economic activity. So we will see the price of inputs, energy specifically, go through the roof, probably, certainly up, and economic output contracts, a stagflation. Now that's 1970s. That was not over in a year, 2 years, 4 years. Even this war in Ukraine has had a massive impact. But as soon as the war stops, things, there's a normalization period, but things they should be able to recover pretty quickly, unless you're in Ukraine, of course, but the rest of the world. If the oil production, refinery, etc. facilities are destroyed, that's a long problem to resolve. So a lot depends on what the war will actually look like. Who knows? It can take a life on its own. And again, the war may not occur, but again, what I'm hearing too is Iran's on the chopping block. Israel is very adamant. Here are our demands. Those demands are unreasonable. They're understandable, but they're unreasonable. World War I kicked off for far more reasonable demands by Austria to the Balkans, to Serbia, far more reasonable demands. And they said, I think that they agreed to 27 and a half of the 28 demands, and Vienna invaded them anyway. Israel, they've made 4, I believe, unreasonable demands, which, surrender sovereignty. Not just no enrichment, not just give up, not just stop nuclear enrichment, which they're not doing. No enrichment, not for medical, not for economic. No enrichment. Give up your enriched material. Limit your missiles, I believe, to a 300-kilometer range, about 200 miles. And number 4 is stop funding terror networks around the Middle East. Who is the greatest sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East? Do you know? the United States of America, who overthrew Assad and replaced an Islamic regime who's murdering Druze and Alawites and Kurds, America and Turkey and Israel. One could say, well, it's Israel, but it's America, then Israel, Turkey, yeah, Iran as well. Iran probably more than Turkey. I don't know, but the point is, like, a resistance to some is a freedom fighters to others. What is the axis of resistance? Well, it's resistance to the United States of America, but most importantly, most prominently, resistance to Israel. This is really what the war's about. They can manufacture consensus. They can say for 20 years, nukes, Iran is a latent threat. This is a topic we covered one time. It's not that they actually have nukes. It's not that they plan on having nukes. But within now a week or even a few days, they could, if they make a political decision, they could get nukes. Especially since Trump unilaterally ripped up the JCPOA, which had limits on Iranian enrichment. Instead of it being weeks to months for them to say, all right, let's get a nuke, it's now days. And then they use this, they manufactured that situation by ripping up the JCPOA, by sanctioning Iran further. Iran, originally, they were kind of complying with JCPOA terms, even though it was signed, ratified by all parties, by the United Nations Security Council. Trump one came in, ripped it up. It's a bad deal, he said. Why is it a bad deal? Because it would have allowed a course that doesn't lead to war. And what the important thing is, what this war is really about, is Israel, is because Iran says we do not accept the legitimacy and existence of the state of Israel. Everything else comes down to that.
Yeah, I mean, currently the crypto's up quite a bit right now. I think Bitcoin's up 5%, but altcoins, XRP's up 6%. Bunk is up 10%. Solarium, I think, is up 11%, and Dodge is up 10%. So it just spiked today, like before we began our podcast. And gold and silver's up. Silver's at $91 an ounce. Gold's at 5,222. And then let me see right now. Crude's up. It's up $70 a barrel. 60 to $70 a barrel, 6-7. So yeah, everything's up right now, and this is also an indication that possible strike. If the markets are up, the insiders obviously know something's going down. I haven't checked what military stocks are doing, but the thing is, if crypto's up, gold's up, and oil's up right now, there is a huge anticipation of an actual engagement, some type of strike. But I did. In research I did, from my understanding, the Iran leadership has said that basically any type of aggression or any type of strike on Iranian territory will result in a full-scale unleash of hell, so to speak. That's not a direct quote, but that's just my words. Basically, they would do full release of whatever arsenal and ability they have, which means most likely strikes on obviously Israel, obviously U.S. bases, obviously maybe even. I mean, I'm in Tbilisi. You're far enough away where you don't have to worry about any type of rogue missiles or ballistic missiles or anything coming. But where I'm at in the Caucasus, we're within range of everything Iran has. I mean, I'm like right up here. Iran's like right here, and I'm like right there. So if they decide to just go ahead and hit, the Vinay's base outside Tbilisi, which is apparently allegedly a NATO training base, that's right next door. So it's right out my window, basically. I mean, I'm not that close, but you know what I mean? It's in the capital. It's outside the capital. So I don't think they'll do that, but I mean, you never know. I mean, if they decide they're like, hey, they've got what's the arsenal that they have? I mean, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of missiles, from what I understand, drones and other types of equipment. So,
Thousands of missiles, low thousands of missiles, high thousands of drones, probably ordnance of over 10,000. I think some say less, some say thousands. Of course, the most advanced missiles, dozens, maybe hundreds.
mhm.
But it's a lot. I hear they could launch up to 2,000 rockets, missiles in a day. I don't know if that includes drones, and also that would be subject to air suppression. But that's apparently the capacity that they could launch. So, what's fascinating is when you look at the markets. Yeah, you can say today it's up. You can say this week it's up. This isn't a markets podcast, but it's important. But this is a reality podcast, but markets reflect reality. So, you've got to look at the macro, the pattern, the trend, the trigger. What's fascinating about the markets is we are absolutely in an inflection point. I have a Bitcoin chart up right now. I have it from 2022 to 2026. And you can see from 2022 all the way until the October 2025. It's a straight line up. It goes up and down and up and down, and then it's up. And then there's a reversal pattern, and it's been down since. It's down since October 2025. So it can go up a bit, but it's the macro is down. So that the macro is down. Very good. Now we're at a key level of significance. We are hovering around $75,000. Key level of significance. Before that, the key level was about 30,000. It went up not to 50, but to 75, and then 100. And so what you see is it oscillated around 100, 125, 75. We're at that 75 range. Now maybe it oscillates around again. It may be as a third wind up. There usually is. There usually is a third wind up. But we're at that boundary point, that 75K, where and you can either say, well, we've had the third impulse, which was from November till the end of January. You could say that is a third head. I don't think it is. I think it's a localized low, it looks like. You don't have to have 3 winds. It can be 2. The point is that it appears as though it's either going to go down to 25K, 50, 25K, or I think I believe that's not a third head. So it's a localized low. It's come down. I think it's either going to go to 100K and then come down again. I think it's going down, unfortunately, just markets, unless the macro changes. It's very important. Or it's going down to 50, 25K. And then the new key level of significance will be about 50K. And there's a lot of support around this 75K. The point is not buy or sell. I don't know. Not financial advice, not your financial advisor. And again, this isn't a markets podcast, but the technical analysis of markets shows a real reality. It's a real reflection. Something you said earlier, the reality is this absolutely is a key inflection point. Empirically, we can look at price, which is information. This is how they really coordinate things. It's massively manipulated like this, and just it reflects reality. It's something really weird like that. Something big is happening. You can see it everywhere you look. You can see it in the news. You can see it when you're talking to your friends. You can see it in the region. You can see it. You can feel it, and it's reflected in the markets. It's very worrisome, and I don't think it will be clean. I think no matter what, every person in the region, even the potentiality of this is, I think this is perhaps the most dangerous, the most dangerous time. I mean, one could say, and very true, that the war concerning Russia in Ukraine has been the most dangerous, and it was. I remember in the last couple months of Biden's presidency, there was a congressional or a Senate report that said Ukraine said, we want long-range weapons to strike deep into Russia, and Biden said, we're going to do it. And the Congress, I believe, said, we believe that the likelihood of nuclear war is over 50%, that it's going to happen. So that would be terrible, absolutely terrible. Fortunately, Trump came in, said we're reversing this policy. But just the other day, Ukraine using, I think it's called a Flamingo, which is a Ukrainian-made system, really British, and it's also built in Denmark and in Germany, and finished assembly in Ukraine. It's a British system. They struck a strategic, like a strategic weapons manufacturing plant deep in Russia, and Russia said this was why the war began, because we didn't want NATO and using Ukraine to be able to strike these places, so that the potentiality of that conflict for even more escalation is very serious. At the same time, Russia is very mature, reasonably. It's restrained. It has the clear conventional capacity to defeat Ukraine over this long attrition war. In contrast, in this region, Iran versus Israel plus, that's not the case. Israel is not able to absorb the level of losses and attrition that Russia has, and it doesn't feel constrained by international or any law at all. They strike like a rattlesnake. The potentiality of this war in heating up like that, I think it's more dangerous than the conflict in Ukraine. This is why some people say Israel is the greatest threat to world peace. Maybe. One can, of course, the alternative is someone says, well, really Iran is the greatest threat to world peace, and that's why we have to do. Yeah, look, on a personal level, I may agree with that, but objectively, Iran do not have nukes and have signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has not signed that treaty, and they do have nuclear weapons between 9 and 25. And so does America. And just the potentiality here is worrisome. Like, I may like to move into the region around this time, if not for this looming geopolitical risk of impending war. The important thing is, even if Iran doesn't use nukes against Israel, conventionally they have enough capacity to wipe. Look at Israel, tiny country, really is. They have Tel Aviv, they've got districts of Tel Aviv, Herzliya, Hamat something. They've got Haifa. There's Jerusalem, which no one really wants to blow off, but you've got Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem, Eilat, Ashdod. Oh, I've ran out of Israeli cities. Iran, huge. The point is, Iran could devastate Israel conventionally. The 12-day war last year, they almost did. If it lasted another 1-2 weeks, Israel would have been not wiped off the face of the earth, but their cities, their strategic and defensive infrastructure was seriously wounded. And it could have been fatally wounded had the war been allowed to continue for even another 7-10 days. This is why America came in, put a stop to it. So I'm hoping if a war does break out, which I hope it doesn't, but it looks like that's the way it's going, because we're not dealing in a neutral and unconstrained reality. We're dealing with these imperial powers, and how these imperial powers coordinate. It's a heavy machine. It's not one person. You have this apparatus of coordination, and all of these apparatus appear to be aligned towards the convergence of war with Iran. And that's why, if I had to bet, which I'm not going to do and I don't encourage doing, but if I had to bet, I would bet that something breaks out here.
Well, it's long-winded. I mean, I think something's going to happen. I'm in the region. I'm closer to the region than you are. I mean, we're both kind of in the Black Sea area, but I'm like right next door. There's a lot of Persians here actually, but I know this government's been trying to kick a lot of them out. Even people that've been here a long time, they've been doing, I would say massive deportation, but they've been deporting quite significant amount of Persians over the last like 5 years, more so recently. But I can tell you that I think Trump's main agenda was Tehran and going after Iran. I think that was his main objective. I don't think he's concerned with Ukraine at all whatsoever. He's more concerned with Israel and the Middle East and particularly Iran. Um, it's madness. It's like he came in with words of peace, and now he's eventually going to be a wartime. He's technically a wartime president because of the ongoing conflict with Ukraine, but we're going to say officially starting a conflict in Iran, which he technically did. So because he did strike, so he is technically a wartime president, which is what he did not run on. He ran on if I was in power, Ukraine would never happen. It happened under Biden, just like
In 24 hours. I'll end it for day one. Get that water end.
Yeah. And like I said, we kind of make fun of Trump and do the politic bashing, but we're still conservatives. I actually voted for him twice, but I just I mean, you got to call someone out. Even if you support somebody, you voted for them, you still got to call them out when they make dumb decisions and stuff, and that's part of the democratic process, if you will. So yeah, just calling it out. I mean, come on, man, what's going on? I mean, with Iran, it is a security concern in the region, especially with nuclear weapons. But if they've got any, I won't do Trump anymore. But I mean, literally, if they have any type of evidence to state that they're building nuclear weapons, there is, like I said, the treaties and there is regulations with that, So it is important to have advisors come in, neutral advisors, nobody from like Israel, America, or anything like that, but like maybe someone from Sweden, or someone that come in neutrally and just say, hey, we don't see anything. That's what what's his name? We don't like him. It's all Lear Network guys. Like we do not like this guy, but Scott Ritter. Because the dissent with what during the Ukraine conflict, what he had said about Gonzalo, but that's what he did. He was a UN weapons inspector, so he that was his job. So I mean, you're going to send someone like a Scott Ritter there, basically. Preferably not an American, but let's send maybe someone from Sweden or a neutral country,
or Israel. But this is the
Israel.
thing. They manufactured this problem. Iran, they've had a moratorium on nuclear weapons for 20 plus years. There's a religious fatwa prohibition. Nuclear weapons are the most destructive thing imaginable. They exist solely to kill en masse.
Yeah.
They're banned.
I believe it too. I believe that they do not want to build nuclear weapons. I personally believe, as an American, as a supporter of Trump, and I'm not a mega guy, but I truly believe that,
and they had inspections, and under JCPOA, it was all regulated. There were inspectors in all their nuclear facilities. Iran had to comply with regulations on nuclear enrichment. This was a deal. It may not have been the greatest deal of the century, but it worked. It was signed. It was ratified. It was law. And Trump unilaterally ripped it up, and the Europeans guaranteed it, but they also said, all right, it's ripped up. When we say that it's manufactured, it doesn't mean it's completely fictitious, but they've pulled the strings of the situation to make it such that this crisis, it is a security concern that Iran could produce nuclear weapons. Well, they said, we don't want nuclear weapons. We have no intention of nuclear weapons. We've just got kind of civilian enrichment. There was law regime, JCPOA, joint comprehensive plan of action to regulate that and make sure that there is no security concern here. And yet, this is continuing the threat, because Iran is a regional pole, a great power of the region, has been for thousands of years.
Yeah, economically too. I mean, they have a lot of agricultural consumer goods products that they do export to other regional countries. I don't think we have any Iranian products here, but I was in Dubai and they were selling Iranian food and products there, and Saudi as well. Am I muted? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. What about
Oh, okay,
dates?
cool.
We have dates here from Iran. Very nice.
Dates
Majnoon.
usually from Saudi. Saudi produces some really good dates, especially from the what was the region? I'm sorry, I'm drawing blank. I was actually teaching there. I was at an Aramco facility. Anyway,
And then
I digress. The thing is that Iran's a very it's an economically viable country. It's a very large land mass, and they are geographically located in the Asian manner, between the Silk Road historically and currently. And they have science, technology. I mean, and like I said, I do have contact. Like a friend that a business. He's a banker, fellow banker, and he's traveled there a couple of times. He said it's like normal. He's like it's just like being in America. Like it's normal people, chill. It's very modern. And it's just interesting. Like it's even more modern and more so than what the heck Syria was. Like Syria was pretty secular under the previous the government. But it's a very well established and well built country. They have very top universities and that could rival with anything in Europe or America. To be honest, I haven't been there myself. I probably wouldn't even be allowed to go there, but I have taught some people from that country here locally in Georgia in the past, long time ago. But I've even worked for some Iranians too, professors and deans and stuff. But it's rather interesting, like the whole situation, because like North Korea actually has nuclear weapons. They do. They tested it. They were like, yeah, we have them. And why isn't Trump going after North Korea? You know what I mean? I mean, he met
because
with
they
Kim
have
Jong
nuclear
Un
weapons.
because he has nuclear weapons. It's a deterrent. That's the whole point of having them, is they're a deterrent. I mean, that's what I mean. I don't think Iran has them, and I don't think they have intention of building them, because of the simple fact that if they had them, this would not be occurring. They may be posturing and building around them, but if they had them, they would not strike nuclear facilities, reactors and stuff. They would kind of abstain from that. Israel would get wiped off the planet, and Israel would wipe off Tehran, and then we have full exchange rather. What are the repercussions you think with Russia? Because I know that Putin had said that he does not. He said that they have an agreement, but not necessarily an actual pact for any type of retaliation. Because that's what was asked before with the last excursion.
So I'm not certain on whether they have a defensive pact or not. They
Mhm.
didn't last year, and then I heard that they did sign one, and I heard maybe they haven't. So I'm actually not confident on whether they do or do not have a pact.
Yeah.
Personally, however, look you look at China and you look at BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and Iran. I think Iran's joined BRICS or a BRICS ascendant. Um, you look. I think Russia's winning in Ukraine. Doesn't mean it hasn't been generate for the generation of Russians. This war in Ukraine. There's been six figures of casualties at least, and I think seven on the Ukrainian side. That's my estimation. And I think Ukrainians are Russians, so I think Russia has suffered seven figures of casualties. Horrific. A civilizational hemorrhage which you just can't come back from. It's definitional. There is this axis of resistance in the Middle East against Israel, led by Iran. There is also this dipole, and the 20th century, it was started off. The first half was this ideological kind of multipolarity or tripole. You had liberal democracy and communism alliance up to defeat National Socialism, and then the second half became a dipole where you had the Soviet Union and America, and now you've kind of got a multipolarity, but it's kind of it's a block nowadays. You've got America and its Western bloc, and you've got the BRICS and the alternative bloc, which is led by Russia and China, and underneath them, kind of tier two, is Iran, India, Brazil, global south. So the thing is that Iran is a key ally to Russia and China, or a partner at the very least. Iran supplies most of its energy, or most Chinese energy is supplied by Iran as a key trade partner, as you say. It's Silk Road to connect. You go through Iran. It is a regional player, and it has always been. Iran, Persia has historically controlled this region, being the hegemon. Sometimes it's been Egypt, sometimes Turkey, never Israel. So if Iran, this key ally and partner of Russia and China, is attacked, if they're defeated, it's a strategic massive L for this anti-American. I don't want to define it as that, but perhaps correct. Kind of an anti-American, this other side of the world. It's a serious loss. Now, if Russia's tied up in Ukraine, which it is, China has been providing supplies to Iran, but they're not. There's not a. I don't think there is a defense pact there, and they're not going to go send their troops in to aid Iran. I don't believe. Why would they? I think if Iran falls, it is strategically devastating for Chinese world order, for Russian, and I don't think China wants to assert a world order. But if America is the unilateral hegemon of the Western Hemisphere, China really is the Zhuanghe, the Middle Kingdom, the center of the world island. And maybe Iran is geographically more central to that world island, big deal. But China, it's got 1.5 billion people, 1.4, and it's the biggest economy, the biggest trade. China, really, everything from there. So devastating. Russia, China.
Yeah. I mean, the thing too is like we talk about the global trade. I mean, China's America's largest trading partner, and like everything you've gone over, it is rather interesting because even though that there's no direct trade or ties with Iran and the United States or Europe, it's still going to affect via proxy other trading partners and alliances. So, and this is obviously a similar thing that we saw with World War II. Where there were trade issues, trade embargoes, tariffs, concessions, things, and it just escalated. And people like smaller countries started declaring wars on other countries, and then they started building alliances, and then it built up to the massive World War II that we read about in history books. The thing is that they're recently, I guess tomorrow. We're today because I'm in the future and you're in the past. I'm talking about timetables. So they're apparently going to meet one last time Thursday for another peace summit. I believe, and we've seen this we can call this historically referring back to the Ukraine-Russian conflict, where they would sign a peace deal or they would come to a peace summit only to buy time to prepare their little soldiers and toy soldiers on a plane, or like their little strategy to prepare for an imminent attack. And it's definitely art of war strategy, and it's also historically been something that the United States does. That NATO, particularly, not necessarily the United States, but just NATO in general, has done with Russia, not just once, multiple times, and we're probably going to see that same repeat. I mean, because now would be the third or fourth time in the small period of history, the last 10, 15 years. So most likely that's what I think is going on. The fact that they have peace summits rather, and they're discussing like we're going to come to some kind of peace deal and stuff like that. And the reality is that they're just preparing, because I mean, the whole time where they're doing peace summits, America's moving carrier groups into the region and moving personnel and completely relocating families and like because there's no families I think that they're on the Bahrain base. It's mostly just all military personnel and support staff. But I think the Qatar one, there might be military families there stationed, but I'm not sure on that one. But the reality is they're moving entire bases off inland to the Arabian Peninsula. So why would they do that if they felt that the peace deals would be fruitful or beneficial, or they would think that there would be some kind of concessions, they would come to some type of peace agreement? Why would they do that? Massive amounts. I mean, I could see like moving stuff a little bit here and there and putting some stuff in, but massive deployment, giving last meal of testament to soldiers before deployment of crab leg steak and lobster. And you know what I mean? That's when they deploy people, because they're preparing for a war, it's a tradition, actually. That's why it's interesting. What was the pizza, Twitter pizza? I'm not talking about Pizzagate or anything like that. I'm talking about the pizza tracker around the Pentagon. Has that been up recently, that you're aware of? We usually post in the Telegram group, and that link's in the
Went up
description.
the other week, perhaps.
Okay. Yeah, because usually when that's up,
it's an index.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pizza index, right?
Yeah, it's that if all the spooks get together at the CIA, if the Pentagon is well staffed, they like ordering pizza. Just there's a percentage of people that like to order pizza. If there's more staff at the Pentagon, there's more orders of pizza, and so you look at like Google activity of activity at places, and when it's up, tends to be there's a lot of people at the Pentagon, and that is an indicator, nothing definitive, but an indicator of Pentagon activity, which tends to spike when something significant may be going on.
Yeah, well, there's lots of people doing analysis and meeting and things like that. The thing about Washington in particular, it's such a small city. And the thing is, the traffic is horrendous. If anybody's ever been to DC, I've met multiple times I've been in. There are people traveling from as far as Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, obviously, Pennsylvania. There are people traveling from all over that actually work in DC. They do like telecommuting, most people in DC, because there's not enough parking spaces and parking garages and transport for people to, if everybody that works in DC metro area, if they were working there on the same day, it would be gridlock all the way back to like maybe Philadelphia. Like that's how many people work in DC generally during the week. So they do a lot of telecommuting, where people come in once or twice a week if they have to come in for meetings. And this is how any government agencies is usually done as well. So if they need to do any type of meeting, they may do some hybrid where they're doing that. But for the most part, everybody's traveling. When a lot of people are traveling at one time and there's a big meeting, like with the pizza index, that's a big deal, because it's very difficult to get into DC. It's very difficult to park and to arrange like in-person meetings. So whenever they're doing analysis like this particular situation, you can't do that over the internet. You can't do hybrid or telecommuting. You have to come in person. So the fact that there's a lot of people and this pizza index goes up, it is usually a really good indicator that something's about ready to happen. And we've seen this throughout, everybody, like our Telegram group and other groups similar, have been tracking. And I don't know who was the first one to start looking at this analysis, but it is rather interesting. So definitely keep, and this is on Twitter, right? X, that usually post stuff like that. Yeah. So
certain channels that follow such things. Yeah, if you follow that, you'll get.
So that's one indicator right now. Like I said, the crypto is way up. Like we're talking, since we began the podcast, it's up 3 or 4 more points. So like I said, Dodge is up 11, Solo's up 12, 13, XRP is up now 8%. And Bitcoin's up 6%. Ethereum, am I pronouncing that correctly? That's up 12%. So just since we began speaking or began the podcast so it's skyrocketing. I didn't anticipate that. Gerald Sente said that, like he said that if there's an attack or a strike in Iran, that the crypto market would probably crash. I remember what I said before in the Telegram group. I'm not sure if I talked about it in previous podcasts, but I had said that crypto might actually crypto, gold, silver. It may skyrocket as a result of any type of war. Reason why is because crypto is a means of exchange. It's a commodity, but it's also the main thing is you look at it from a commodity standpoint. It is a means of exchange. It is a tool for digital transfers. But the main thing is like if ATMs go down, or if there's bank holidays and stuff like that, it's hard to get cash out. It can be sent digitally, but like they could shut off stuff, Swift and different things temporarily. And crypto, as long as you have a cold wallet or you have a means of exchange, it's easier to exchange gold and silver, that sort of thing. So this is store of value. People are going to be holding on to these, and they're commodities. So obviously, if there's a war, what happens to commodities historically? So that's where I disagree with Gerald Celente. That's why I was like, I'm not selling my crypto. It was down quite a bit, but I was like, I'll just keep it in and see what happens, because it's more of a savings or retirement account for me than anything. So I keep it as a store of value, just like gold and silver. So I don't like selling it. Even if I'm up, I just leave it in for long haul, because if you look at the long enough average, it generally does pretty well. Or it has historically, as you pointed out earlier in the podcast. I don't want to get too far in there. Like I said, we're not a crypto podcast. We're not an investing podcast. We're just speaking about this in generality, and relevant to the conflict and how it's going to affect the markets and the overall system of system pigs. And that's not my word. That the late Gonzalo Lira was using that term at the beginning of the Ukrainian conflict, which basically I think was part of the reason we know what led to his arrest and ultimate death, was the fact that he was calling news journalists and Ukrainian officials system pigs. I mean, it's a fitting term. It's a fitting term, to say the least. I don't know, where did he get that from? Was it said before in like literature? Because he's a novelist. He was a novelist and a literary artist. So I never heard that before he said that. That was original. I was like, whoa, system pig. That makes sense. We've borrowed it and we've used it, but yeah.
We've been since the 19th century, the term pig has been a derogatory slang for a police officer in 19th century English slang, but it was popularized and redefined in American culture in the 60s and early 70s by counterculture protesters and the Black Panthers. But this is pig. System pig? I'm not sure.
It's compound. Yeah, because system is system. We talk about systems, power in American society, power in the global society. So that's a system. We're talking about systems per se. So he just created it. Then he was the original. I like I said, we'll just say Gonzalo Lira was the origination of System Pig, and we're using it today. It's on my thumbnail. So yeah, I didn't want to name the podcast System Pig because it's algorithms. But it's in the thumbnail.
System pigs serve and protect the ruling class and their interests, and they violate your rights and your interests. They're not just system pigs like the uniformed pigs of the system, just the police, right? It's not. It's more than the visible apparatus of government. You got the suited legislators, you got police, the uniformed pigs, you got civil servants, state functionaries. I got more to say, but you wanted to interrupt?
I was just thinking that pig would denote as greedy, and that a system is established state of like how things are done. Like anything's a system. There's systems to anything. But the fact that they are a determined pig of a system means that they're greedy. They're greedy nature of the system. So they're just gobbling up resources, and they don't think anything of it. It's just, that's what I would think as to explain the acronym or the.
I mean, they eat the slop, right? Like they often reap personal benefits, whether monetary, social acceptance, career advancement, or perhaps just ideological comfort. They choose to align with the system because doing so provides them a tangible advantage or perceived system boost. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily that's the primary motivation. They knowingly support the status quo. They facilitate propaganda or power structures. They overlook or rationalize the harm that is done to others. For example, I was just following orders or process regardless of the outcome. And they frequently aid a minority at the expense of the majority. That's not ethnically. That's the system may benefit a select group, political elites, corporate interests, or bureaucratic hierarchies. These are the select minorities. And then they impose costs, financial, social, or ethical, on the broader population. So the system pig not only benefits from this disparity, but may also be instrumental in perpetuating it. A system pig, it's they side with the government against the people.
Yeah, I can see that.
There's many ways to talk about this. Some may say it's quite inflammatory language. I think it's
appropriate lexicon, I think, for the situation. Yeah,
I think it's like a slap in the face. Sometimes it's needed. I mean, Hans Hermann Hoppe, one of the most prominent right-wing anarcho-capitalist thinkers, he says it slightly different. He says the state is an institution run by gangs of murderers, plunderers, and thieves, surrounded by willing executioners, propagandists, sycophants, crooks, liars, clowns, charlatans, dupes, and useful idiots. The state is an institution that dirties and taints everything it touches. So all those that surround that gang of murderers, plunderers, and thieves are those system pigs, typically. And some of them are uniformed pigs, some of them are state functionaries, some of them are just charlatans, dupes, and useful idiots. I was watching a video the other day of some like arrest, and the police, they knock at the door. We want to talk to this guy, and the father says, "Is he under arrest?" And they refuse to answer, and they say, "All right, go get your son." He says, "No." And then they just attack him and say, "You're under arrest for obstruction." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Okay, what?" And then I go to the comments, and this is the black pill for me. And the comments are like, "Haha, yes, good police officer for grabbing that guy." And some of the comments were like, "But there was like these pigs didn't say, yes, he's under arrest. Here is a warrant. Here is the legal authority for detainment." They just said, "Yeah, we want to speak to your son." He said, "I don't think so." And so all those useful idiots, whom I have some of the most contempt for. The most contempt for, I think, are the bureaucrats. The worst. And then those useful idiots. And then you've got these system actors. You've got the bureaucrat, the corporate actor, the media node, the academic. Many others, I'm sure. Just those are off the top of my head. And this is not left versus right. This is the system versus you. And you should hate their system. Not our civilization, not your country necessarily, but you should hate their system of control and coercion and consensus manufacturing. And this coercion is often, it's so sophisticated nowadays, it's subtle rather than overt. And one 100%. One of these key core mechanisms is what the late, great John McAfee would describe as neuro-linguistic programming. This is why whenever you see Iran, they are the enemies, they are the demons. Oh, there's a conflict going on in Mexico, Iran were behind it. Same thing with Russia. Oh, something bad happened in Europe, Russia's behind it. In England, any bad thing that happened is because of Russia. And this and the media is the keynote for this, and the algorithm perpetuates that. And this is one of the most powerful tools they have, neuro-linguistic programming. But it's beyond that. Again, it's how they manufacture consensus by framing topics, defining the acceptable boundaries of questions of thought, selective sourcing of experts, who they amplify, the pressure they place on society, social signaling, algorithmic reinforcement, that's a huge one, and then an institutional codification, and that tends to be with credential gatekeeping. Say, who decides who is competent, who certifies that, who's allowed to speak, how dissent is unqualified. It's a conspiracy, as well as, and that's more overt and it's very sophisticated with algorithms nowadays. But you also have those more tacit ones where, you want a promotion, you want research funding. Well, we have a certain worldview, a certain direction that we're not saying you have to align with it, but everyone else who is aligned, they're getting ahead. And your work is good, I suppose. Right. And this is why I think it's so sinister and malevolent.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I want to get into some comments that we DC177, our avid follower. He says, "You think Russia has suffered a million casual?" Let me see. Let me take off. Oh no, it's good. Okay. You think Russia has suffered a million casualties, i.e., dead, or are you counting dead plus injured? I guess that was from previously. What are your thoughts on that?
I said casualties includes wounded and dead.
Okay.
I think that Ukrainians are Russians civilizationally, and that's why I said, look, every Ukrainian loss is, at the end of the day, in the final analysis, a Russian loss. This is what I post on my channel before it was taken. Ukraine is Russian civilizational space. Every Ukrainian loss is a Russian loss added to Russia's own military losses. The West understands Ukraine cannot achieve victory, but that doesn't matter. The war functions as an attritional wound inside Russia's own civilizational body. Western economic damage is tolerable and reversible to the elites. Russian demographic and territorial damage is not. The result is a deep generational scar that no battlefield outcome can erase. You said that Trump, is unconcerned about Ukraine. They're and to some extent, you're correct. The nuance I say is they're not unconcerned with Ukraine. They like it because it's wounding Russia. They're unconcerned with the eventual outcome because they're going to lose. But for them, it's not about ultimate victory. Of course, they'd like ultimate victory, and they've pushed as hard as they can for it. But it's about the strategic defeat of Russia has been their goal since the beginning. And that strategic defeat, what do you mean strategic? What do you mean? Like, why not total military defeat? A strategic defeat could just be, look, economically they've suffered. Territory. I mean, the mines in that region are going to take a century to clear. The fiberglass around the place, the nuclear depleted uranium residue
Weaponry.
around the ground.
It's a lot of
it got blown
a
up.
lot of the
There was a
weapons.
facility in Ternopil that got blown up, and I don't know what happened to the dust. I read reports, that there is a spike in the Geiger counter. Oh, there's not. But you get that dust into wheat, and that wheat, it's like, and Chernobyl, great city. Lots of people study, work, and you've got a weapons depot there, which was storing depleted uranium tank shells, and that was blown up.
Mm-hmm. There was another situation too, like a lot of the tanks and artillery that was sent from NATO. A lot of the U.S. like it's well known fact actually. A lot of the U.S. weaponry, the shells and artillery, they use a lot of depleted uranium because it's cheap and it's readily available. Waste products, if you will. And a lot of that was used in Ukraine as well. So that's littered all over the battlefield. And that's in the most, I think I've talked about that previous podcast way back when we were talking about Ukraine. That's in the battlefield. So the battlefield is over. It's not like there's like, it's not like the battlefield is like some arena where you go and you battle like the Matrix or something. No, this is like in farmland. This is in fertile land. This is in areas where people are living and occupying in forests and things of that nature.
Outskirts, little villages.
Yeah. So this is going to affect long term, hundreds of years. Depleted uranium that's littered throughout the battlefield of farmland. So like it's getting the streams, it's getting the soil. It's this is going to affect an ecological disaster of this is the problems with conflicts.
Ecological disaster.
I mean, when we compare the Middle Eastern conflicts, like the Iraqi conflict, it's mostly desert, so it didn't really matter. That's why they were using depleted uranium, because most of at the time they were like, well, most of our battles are pretty much in desert climates where like it's inhabitable and no one's good. It's not really going to matter. There's no streams. There's no real. This is the logic. I'm not saying that I agree with it or just
No, no,
but,
you're
but what I'm saying,
correct. There's been some
yeah.
horrific birth defects as a result of.
Oh yeah,
I
no,
mean,
no.
it's
I
like
mean, we could see that. Yeah, yeah.
it's like in Vietnam, Agent Orange. It was effective at clearing trees. The
Yeah.
birth defect, even of U.S. soldiers, it's been
Correct.
horrific.
Correct. Yeah, and the VA denied a lot of those benefits for a whole generation until like finally the Congress did a hearing and said no, they deserve benefits, even their dependents as well. And that takes years for that to push through, because no, they have to get medical scientists and academics like myself to go in and say, look, this happened. I'm sorry that it's classified and we want to deny that it happened, but this is the empirical studies, and we've seen it over a generation, multiple generations. This is the result, and you're responsible, so you need to pay. But the reality is that we could talk about that too as part of the system pig, so to speak, that there are repercussions and that there's economic consequences, as well as everything that you've discussed and everything that we've talked about. But yeah, with this Iranian conflict, the potential Iranian conflict. Let me get to the next question, DC, and we'll get into this question here. So, if there is an Iranian war, do you think the Arab regimes are stable enough to withstand any economic crisis due to that war? And it's good that you asked that question. We're getting to it now towards the end of the podcast, but yeah, I mean, that's what we're discussing. It's just there's economic consequences to any major conflict. Now, I want to do a micro analysis, like the 2008 Ostedian conflict between Russia and Georgia, because I'm here in Georgia, so try to keep it kind of relevant to the region. There was an economic boom shortly after the conflict. I came shortly after. I came here in 2011, 3 years after. And at the conflict, the conflict happened during the peak of the 2008 economic crisis, by the way. So there was building, but apparently the building had stopped. So they were building, they were manufacturing homes, and there was some growth and things of that nature, because the Rose Revolution happened prior to that, and a lot of money started coming in due to reforms. However, the economy just stopped basically because of the conflict. But shortly thereafter, America sent financial assistance, EU sent financial assistance, and then a lot of money started flowing in. So there was a huge economic boom shortly after the conflict. And that's what we talked about in a previous podcast about the Ukrainian conflict. We were talking about a possible peace deal that was coming over the summer. And I had said that, yeah, basically, and this is consensus with other academics, predominantly business marketing and business strategists and global trade, people that are experts in this in geopolitical studies that I work with or know through contacts. And you guys know I work in academia, I'm a professor, so I have a lot of contacts globally. We had discussed this, and we were like, yeah, that once that Ukraine conflict is over, there will be an economic boom. There will be a lot of money flowing into Ukraine, Russia as well, because a peace deal would allow for Russian economy to open back up. And this is what I think. And Trump has kind of mentioned this, and this is kind of like reason why I voted for Trump, because I was like, okay, Trump is saying that he wants to bring peace to Russian conflict. He wants to open the economy up, get the global economy going again, and that just fizzled out and failed. And then now we're possibly getting into another fucking conflict. So now we have two major conflicts that we're involved in, that NATO is involved in. And it's like, well, dude, I voted for you because I wanted an end of Ukrainian Russian conflict that you said that you would orchestrate, and you've done nothing. You just sat on it, and you've made it even worse for Russia, made it even worse for the Black Sea region. The Black Sea region is actually worse off under a Trump administration than it was under a Biden administration. So what are you doing, bud? What's going on? What are you doing to help the situation? Causing another conflict in the Caspian region is not going to help the Black Sea region. It's going to make it worse here. because it's already bad. And then the government that's here, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm here, but they're not helping the situation either. So, what are we doing? Is it just the race to the bottom? I mean, is it just system pigs not giving a shit? Like, hey, man, there's money to be made here and here, and as long as we keep these wars going, man, the money's going to be flowing from the heavens like manna. I don't know. It's just, yeah. What do you think on this?
Why do you think the US government gives a shit about the prosperity of the Black Sea region, the Caspian region, the Caucasus? They don't care an iota unless it's about their interests, which is their money. And it's just how the US took over Hawaii. Hey, we've got lots of investments in sugar plantations, and hey, the government there, they're anti-American. Oh, they are, says Congress, after lobbying and manufacturing this reality in a war. And so the U.S. warships rock up and take the Queen and say, "You belong to us now, or we'll kill everyone." Oh, I see. Okay, then it was right. They make something up. There are times where there's a war that's justified because a legitimate casus belli, a reason for war. Frequently, and with the US especially, they just manufacture it. Doesn't mean that there's not legitimate grounds around it. Hawaii, they said, what if Japan or China go and get it? Plus, they're anti-American. Plus, we've got interest in the economically. And so Congress is like, okay, we'll annex Hawaii. I just want to go back to that question from DC. Are Arab regimes stable? First thing to say is that Iran is not Iran is not Arab. There are Arabs in Iran. I think around 10%, 5 to 20. I don't know, but it's Persian primarily, and there's other ethnics, there's Azerbaijani,
It's
there's
Kurds,
Pashtuns,
Kurds,
Kurds.
Armenians,
It's
Caucasus. Yeah.
many different ethnicities there. So if the question is Iran stable enough to withstand this? It's a big question. Are the surrounding Arab regimes? Maybe so many are you talking the first 6-12 months after the total American victory? Probably long term. The regional calculus may change. I am my personal philosophy is bet on the trend until you see indicators otherwise. So I would say probably yes. But if you'd listen to who's that CIA propagandist, Peter Zeihan, he would say, this is going to drop and that's going to drop, and you're not going to have this country anymore. It's Syria, Iraq. That's going to be one country. So that's what the CIA propagandist would say. By the way, admitted, yeah, I've got contracts with Department of Defense. So, and then just before I continue on this point, just on democracy, right? You've said Trump came in on a peace platform. This is what I voted for. Peace summit. Look, Zelensky came in on a peace platform. They don't mean it. They just want you to vote for them, and once they're in power, the power does what power will. Democracy is a regime of manufactured consent. Hey, if you participate in my ritual and vote for me, I promise I'm going to give everyone a puppy, and I'll give you money, and I'm going to do everything you want. When they get into power, they no longer need to conform to those promises, that democratic mandate. Right? The reality is, it's the key quote from today, the reality is they don't give a they don't care. They will do whatever they have to. They will say whatever they have to say to get in, and then they will do whatever they want to do. And the primary motivation there is probably money. But with Iran, it's not just money. It's ideological. The primary sin of Iran is they refuse to accept the legitimacy and existence of the state of Israel.
Yeah, that's well put. I mean, yeah, DC also asked here. I'm gonna put this comment up here. So it's cut off for some of you guys, but it's fine. I'll read the whole quote. So any new wars Trump will start except Iran. You think Venezuela Sega is over? I think Taiwan could flare up anytime as well because China wants to divert attention from its failing economy, i.e., AI bubble. Yeah, the AI bubble we talked about. We talk about it all the time actually, and now influencers are like, "Oh, we're in an AI bubble." And now the actual insiders with tech are saying there's an AI bubble. Like I said, we predicted the crypto crash that happened recently, the major correction. We predicted also the stock market bubble. You could go back 2 or 3 podcasts where we talked about that. Yeah, I called it. And we said it would happen, or at least I said it would happen the first quarter, which it already has. But I think I had said also that that's it. You'll see the first hiccup, and then it'll go back to normal as usual until the next new thing happens, which is the Iran conflict. But this actually might possibly spike these, not the tech, but maybe the tech stocks if they're military related. But it's a system, and the system pigs want to make money, so they're going to do whatever they can to spike and cause crash. Basically artificial crashes, artificial spikes in the marketplace to gamble and make money because it's at this point it's a rigged game. I mean, it really does seem that way. I mean, Trump is like, he comes on, he does a presidential address, and all of a sudden the crypto market's starting to going crazy right now. Or, he decides that he's going to do a blanket tariff, and the crypto market was at all time highs, and then all of a sudden it just takes a massive correction. But his buddies at the same time, and he issues a Trump coin, by the way, that also benefited from it. But his buddies on Wall Street decide to sell their crypto and get out of the market just before the announcement. So that was kind of interesting, allegedly. So, I mean, like I said, the system pigs, it's by design. They control the system. They make decisions that they know are ultimately going to affect things. And Gerald Salente made a really good comment. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's a trends forecaster. He's been on Oprah. He used to be a Fox News contributor. I mean, I think he knows for the most part what he's talking about. Maybe not so much relevant nowadays because I think he's getting older. But he what he mentioned his recent podcast. He said, "I'm sorry if I really went with the trail of thought here, but he said basically that." When they do strike or they make when government or U.S. government, in particular President POTUS, decides to strike or engage in a conflict, he usually does it over the weekend, or government does it over the weekend.
Friday.
Do the Friday, yeah, for the markets.
Night, yeah.
Friday night, yeah, and he did that last time.
As well, so the 12-day war began Friday midnight last year, and it also means, if it's Monday morning, everyone's at work in the office, hey, let's respond. Maybe you got plans for the weekend. You finally I can go fishing. I can go to my second house. I can do my hobbies. I'm with the kid. It's like, oh crap, a war's broken. I'm not in work mode. I'm in weekend mode. So it's as well. You said kind of coincidental. Friday's the 27th, Saturday's the 28th. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the month. Markets close. They then.
We're also at the end of third quarter. We're at the end of first quarter. That's the other thing too. This is when all the balance sheets and everything starts coming out. So, maybe we're gonna call it, guys. Maybe we're gonna call it because all the sorry to cut you off, but the fact that you're what you're pointing out, I'm like thinking in my mind, it's like deep thoughts with Jack Haney from Saturday Night Live. As an analyst, like I said, in the expert in this stuff, balance sheets for third quarter, first quarter is about to end. This is a perfect storm, to boost markets and to manipulate for system picks. So they may actually strike on Saturday. They may. I mean, Iran thinks so. I mean, if Iran thinks so,
the important thing is it's probable, right? It's not just we're not saying it will, but it's probable, and because it's probable, it's not just like 10%.
High probability.
Even 20%, 40%, it's probable enough that it really could happen. So I think we started this question by the conversation by asking a simple structural question: how is reality actually manufactured in the modern world? This is whether we're talking about academic studies, corporate narratives, regulatory outcomes, or international conflict. The underlying mechanism is the same. Aligned incentives produce aligned narratives. It's a rigged game, darned riggers. And you have confluence, and you have whole apparati across a variety of different structural components that lead to this. In Iran, you've got geopolitical positioning, threat application, market responses. Obviously, it's not random. It's institutional actors responding to incentive structures that reward certain framing and penalize others. And the strings have been pulled, it's been manufactured. And we see that in markets too. It's a rigged game. In media, they manufacture that consensus around threat levels, implied necessity of intervention, language, neurolinguistic, and economic spillover effects. Markets move all the time, but they don't move purely because of pure facts. They move because institutional confidence, risk appraisal, narrative certainty converges. That narrative certainty is not just abstract. This is how smart money operates. That it's such a big system, it's an imperial system, that to coordinate it, again, it's not one guy in a back room. They have to mobilize all their different systems. So traders may react not just to raw data, but to perceived policy direction and narrative momentum. The smart money, the big institutions, more so. What the system seeks to do is not just manufacturing truth, but a certainty. This is why the people that I know in big institutions, they say Iran is on the chopping block. It's not. I say, what do you think is the probability? And those that I've spoken to, which may not be right, and they've been wrong before, but this is at least their psychology. They say it's going to happen. I don't know when. I don't know if it's this Friday, if it's next week, if it's in a month or two, but it's going to happen because it feels inevitable. This happens whether it's war, economic protection, social risk. The system incentives and legal, financial, reputational, all the actors are pushed towards shared interpretations. These can be such that when the public encounters the narrative, it no longer feels engineered, but inevitable. I've heard it on the news. I've read this. I didn't hear that. I wasn't told what to think. Everything was just set up so that I know what I think, and I don't. It's not because they told me. I came to this on my own. All right, that's the engineering. That's the construction. It's why reality is not random. It's not just got a mind of its own. The free market has never been free. It's assembled. Consensus is the product of architecture, not truth alone. That's why understanding manufacturing reality is essential, whether we're talking about markets, war, or everyday life.
That's awesome. That's a good close. Let me see. DC, yeah, he had some really good comments. He's really smart guy. He engages quite often with us. I think he watches every podcast, honestly. But it is what it is. Let's hope that nothing happens. But what is the quote that you often say? Nothing ever happens. Is that what you say? What do you usually say, Adam?
Well, that's not my quote. Nothing ever happens is a big quote. Yeah.
Yeah, you say it all the time.
I do use it a lot, but I say until you see a reversal or indication or confirmation. So the trend is right now nothing's happening, but there is so many indicators pushing in this direction that nothing ever happens usually, but something seems like it is going to happen. I don't know if it's this week, next week, 3 weeks, 2 months. I am anticipating something happening concerning Iran before November, and probably much more imminently.
Yeah, and I always say it is what it is. That's my quote. So nothing ever happens, and it is what it is. But the thing about nothing ever happening is that's the status quo. The system pig, or the system per se, is status quo. That's generally how a system works. Is it status quo? It does the same thing. It's consistent. But we're in uncertain times, and like one of the previous podcast that we did before was about frozen conflict, or was it frozen? It was about ice or whatever. It is what it is. I was talking about uncertain world, and that actually, let me pull it up. Let me go pull it up real quick. I'll look it up. So like we're in uncertain times basically, and more or less the situation is that because of the uncertainty, because we have aging leadership, we have, and and like I said, I'm not saying the leaders that we have are incompetent, because I said this before in the Telegram group today or yesterday. I'd said that basically my analysis was there's some smart and very highly intelligent advisors and people giving them information. And the thing is like, even we're very smart. I mean, we went to really good schools, and Adam's a very good economist. He knows his stuff, and I know my stuff when dealing with leadership and business strategy and geopolitical strategy. I digress. The situation is there are advisors and there are people like us that give these people information. Obviously, people that are probably more experienced and in the system. And the system pigs, it's up to them to decide what is beneficial for their strategy, and they make the decision. That's leadership. Now, if that leadership is incompetent or misinformed, or their agenda is not for the people or for what's best for, as you said before, minority interest groups, or the club or whatever, and they make poor decisions, that's it. But we did talk about previously last week with Soviet Union collapse that the system pigs, I'm not going to name anyone in particular. The system pigs then, they benefited by a collapse, by a manufactured, an organized collapse, or controlled collapse, demolition of the Soviet Union. And it was systematic, and it was well orchestrated and well thought out. And a lot of the oligarchs, that this word oligarch came out of that actual collapse, by the way. That's where we get the term oligarch. The term was coined and used as the Soviet Union collapsed. These oligarchs grew powerful through connections through the political system. Yeah, it is. Look it up. Look it up, Adam. If you don't believe me, look it up. Trust me, it's there. So the oligarchs that are ruling like these regions today, they gained a lot of their power and influence through the system of the pigs. They are the system pigs. The oligarchs are the system pigs. They're the ones that gobbled up and greedily took everything that they could through either, mafia, as you talked about before, controlled, organized crime. Or it wasn't really organized crime. When you're a mob boss or you're mafia in a collapsing anarchy system, you're a warlord. You are a oligarch. And the other oligarchs were the, basically connected people, government people, or military or academics, or anybody that was knowledgeable about the system and the connections. They gained power and influence and wealth as well. So this was, like I said, the current system is that the system pigs in power, when and they know, and it is what it is, there is a reason for them to orchestrate what's going on right now. And it's not like, oh man, there's like chaos and this government and this rogue leader and this crazy stuff and this is all going on. And no, no, no. They know what's going on. Trust me. It's not like it's just, whoa, something just blew up and happened. No, they know. The governments, like a lot of governments, they do a 10-year plan. They plan for 10-year contingencies and 10-year, they're well planned out in advance, depending on if it's demand economy or, surplus, or what is it? The communists use, there's an economic term. What type of system do they use? Economic system, the communist. It's
Marxist,
like a
communist,
controlled.
capitalist,
No,
imperial.
no. The communists have a social planning. They have an actual planning that
Oh,
they develop.
Politburo, 5-year plans,
Basically, yeah, yeah.
planned
So
economy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's basically planned. So the capitalists also plan, but the thing is the capitalists are working with different types of like mechanisms and systems and different people, so they have to coordinate a little bit better. There's more communication. People are acting independently. It's multifaceted, but at the same time, we talked about this before with America. It's not really a true capitalist system. It's like it's a federalist, socialist. Like what's the best term to use for the Western economies at scale right now? The type. It's not really capitalist. It's
Capitalism, crony capitalism.
crony capitalism were probably the best. Yeah. So it is well planned. It's a planned economy. It's economies of scale, but it's very planned, and the system is set up for very few, like I said, system pigs or different people to take advantage of. And these are like the Elon Musk. I wouldn't necessarily say Bezos or anything like that, but you know what I mean? Like there's certain people that are benefiting. Zuckerbergs. These people have the contracts. They are given money. They're exclusively, they're the system pigs. They are literally
Corporate
in the know.
heads.
Corporate
Corporate
heads, yeah.
heads of
We call it
government
corporate heads, and
corporations. They
we
call it in
call it
America the greatest entrepreneurs of our generation.
correct. And all they are is oligarchs. That's all they are. They're Western oligarchs.
But
Not me coining that, but that's other influencers and other academics have said that same thing. Yeah.
it's fantastic is rather than invent telegrams, something fantastic. They looked at NASA, and that's inefficient. I'm going to set up my own private corporate and contract for the government. That's how they made tons of money. I just wanted to say that Professor is correct that prior to the 90s, oligarch functioned largely within academic, philosophy, historical context, mostly focused on governance structures and political power rather than contemporary wealthy individuals. Only since the 1990s, out of Russia, has it been used in the modern lexicon.
Yep. Like I said, system pigs. We're instead of we'll call them oligarchs, we're gonna call them system pigs. Gonzalo Lira, may rest in peace. He came up with it, and let's just no longer call them oligarchs anymore. We have a new term for the AI generation for the fourth industrial revolution, system pigs. So we're not going to say oligarchs. We're going to say system pigs. So everybody with us now, lexicon, just spread it through the internet. Hashtag system pigs. And this is what oligarchs are, modern oligarchs in the digital age.
Yes, this is true, but system pigs, like these are the governing elites, these oligarchs. System pigs tend to be non-governing elites, tend to be the bureaucrat, the administrator, the enforcer, the state functionaries, and their academic. Like it tends to be the functionary you may actually interact with rather than the multi-millionaire, billionaire, the CEOs. They may also be system pigs. They are. But when
I'll put it this way,
system pigs is usually a much more accessible individual.
you're right. I'm not going to say you're wrong. Thanks for breaking the lexicon down. But when you have Elon Musk, who is an oligarch, but he was tapped by Orange Man himself to become the leader or the czar of Dodge, to balance the budget. He himself is a system pig. So technically, he's an oligarch and a system pig, but he is the system pig because he's not only the wealthiest man in the world, but he's also a politician, government official, and an oligarch and a businessman
The
entrepreneur.
system
He
hog.
the system hog. So like I'm going to make a meme and a picture of Elon Musk as a system pig, and I'm going to post it on the Telegram group. I'll put it on locals, and you know what? I could post it on the sensor tube as well because we could post pictures and stuff. So I'll make a system pig AI image of Elon Musk as definition of system pig, and we'll put all of his little things that he does, and probably will never be able to post on X ever again. Although I've been shadow banned on there anyway, but what do I care? And maybe we'll get Grok to do it for us too. That would be I think. That'd be hilarious and
Fitting.
funny.
Um,
Yeah.
Gonzalo Lira is credited with popularizing the term system pig. I've not been able to find any evidence of it being widely used or recognized before him. So we're crediting him, well, he is credited with popularizing system pig.
Yes, it's all Lyra. Term system pig. We'll get that trending. Everybody just say everybody's system pig. That's the new oligarch, is the system pig. The system pig of the 21st century. And I'm going to close with that. Any last words? You left some really good quotes and some good what do we call it? Some shorts that we can put together. But I don't know. Anybody else got any questions before I close? Do you see anyone going once, going twice? Go ahead.
I think that the lasting quote, I'm going to take two, put them together. The reality is it's a rigged game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, take care. Thank you for joining us. And like I said, join Telegram group. Links in the description. Adam Maxwell's link tree is in my description. I don't know if it's in his stuff, but also my locals channel as well. I've got a lot of members also with the locals, with the T Club that Lupiter helped me name. I think it's fitting. We were kind of like parodying off of Steven Crowder's Mug Club. We're just like, we're going to call it T Club, just like as a parody to him. Anyway, I digress. The situation is that I'm going to be doing a masterclass in business strategy and business acumen and marketing, digital marketing. I'm also doing book club for, we're going to do Brave New World and Plato's Republic. And I'm going to select some other books, but this is all part of membership. You also get my book that's in progress. I already published the first volume, and I'm working on it. It's updating because it's an academic book, but it's also a leadership book for practical as well as theoretical. And that's Unleash Your Inner Sigma Male. That's free to all members that are paid on the locals channel. And like I said, links in the description. And if you're on Rumble, it should be, I think, right here. We can click to join. And Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month's membership, makes only $1. And it's well worth it because, like I said, everything they offer, all the content that we have, I do exclusive. I have exclusive interviews there as well, and different types of deep dives that I do with different influencers that come on. It's a good network. It's a good community of people. And the thing is, there's no censorship on it. So we can talk about whatever. You can post whatever memes and stuff in there. I don't care. Because even as we saw with Telegram, Adam's channel got nuked. Your Liberty Rising group, your meme channel, it got nuked. Telegram, it got nuked. That's not going to happen on locals, guys. I don't know anybody's locals channel that got nuked at all. No one. So that's the whole point of it, is just to go there and we can enjoy masterclasses, book club, and we can have nice conversations and deep dives, stuff that, like, the wokies and the betas and the beta males and, the people my feelings. Cause I get this in academia as well, guys. I get students like, you hurt my feelings. It's like, yeah, enjoy saying, would you like fries with that there with your useless degree? Obviously didn't learn anything from you. So, you know who you are if you're watching my podcast, by the way, my student that says stuff like that. But I digress. Anyway, you guys take care. Good night. And we will see you hopefully next Wednesday. We do this weekly, but like sometimes stuff happens and we might have to skip a week, but we'll let you guys know. But generally every week we're going to start around 8 o'clock. We went 2 hours, but it's fine. No big deal. Take care. Bye.